Welcome to Mama's Space, a podcast wherein moms can relax, reflect, and connect with others through their stories and experiences. Being a mom is a challenging, beautiful adventure that shouldn't be navigated alone. Join me as I connect with fellow moms about their journey into motherhood. We'll get down to the nitty-gritty and chat about the joy, the tears, the mess, and all the love that comes with being a parent. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Brittany Miller, and you've tuned in to the second episode of Mama's Space. I'm very excited to share this conversation with you. I don't want to waffle on it all here. I just want to dive straight in. But I get together with my sister-in-law, Justine, and we sit down and chat and talk about all things motherhood. So I hope that you enjoy. Cool. Well, I'm very excited to chat with you today. I was thinking how we haven't actually spoken properly in such a long time. I think obviously family gatherings get so chaotic and all the kids running around and we're just trying to keep track of who's where and making sure they don't kill each other and then navigating who's going to eat what and the meals. It's all happy family chaos.
Happy chaos, but not conducive for deep conversations.
No. And I know we all like those deep conversations, and it's just hard to do that, and it's hard to get the time. So, yeah, I'm glad that we can chat now. To start things off, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your family?
Well, I am your sister-in-law. I'm Britt's sister-in-law, we are married to 3 brothers. Okay, wait, that sounds weird.
We are married.
Me and Britt are married to 3 brothers. There are 3 brothers, and I'm the second brother's wife, and Britt is the third brother's wife, and there's another brother's wife, and we all live super close to each other, which is dreamy and so nice. And so I am married to Dan. And I have 2 little boys and a third little boy cooking.
On the way.
And
obviously this podcast is all about moms and motherhood. So what do you enjoy? What do you enjoy most about being a mom?
Well, I think my favorite thing about being a mom is the closeness, the love. I don't know. It's hard to like explain that part of it, I think, sometimes. And I think that's maybe why when we get together as moms, it's easier to talk about the things that are challenging. Those things sometimes seem easier to put into words than the love, like what it feels like to have these little people waddle up to you and ask for snuggles, or to smell the top of their heads, or kiss their chubby cheeks. It's like all these things that are just like the best thing about being a mom are like kind of hard to put into words, you know? It's not like, it's not like a one concept. It's just like this connection, this feeling of having this little being who you absolutely adore, want to be in your space, want to kiss you and hug you, and I don't know, it's just so, I guess it's fulfilling. I don't know, it's hard to describe. And I think
it's hard.
One of the challenges maybe as moms that we have is like sharing the beautiful parts of it,
sharing the positive,
because it's hard to put into words. But I think it's probably somewhere between chubby cheeks and the smell of their hair and kissing their necks and the cute things they say, and somewhere in the mix of that is my favorite thing about being a mom.
I love that you say that. And just for the context, you have 2 boys, and so I have a girl, so it's very different. So when you mention like their smell and their neck, I just imagine like there's crumbs from snacks and like smears in the mud. And
it's not. I mean, I don't love kissing their cheeks when it's like a glazed donut on both sides. But I wipe it first and then I kiss their cheeks.
Yeah. So I love that you say that, despite very much in the era of being with like the grubby
totally.
boys, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, you bring up an interesting point saying like it's hard to put those things into words. I think it's often, it feels easier to, or yeah, it feels easier to bring up the more negative. Okay, I don't want to use the word negative, but like the more challenging aspects of being a mom.
Yeah.
I feel like those are much easier to talk about than the little moments and things that really bring us joy and help bring us through all those challenges.
Totally.
Yeah, that newborn smell. Thinking of that,
insane.
How are you feeling about having a third kid?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I'm a little intimidated, but I also feel like, you can't know what you don't know yet. So I feel like I'll find out what it is going to be like, and I'm sure it'll be hectic. But when I had Rocco, he's my second, my oldest is Johnny. When I just had Rocco, and those first, like after those first 3 weeks were over, I had already decided I needed to have a third one, just because that newborn stage was like so delicious. I think the first time round I was really overwhelmed and I think I couldn't really enter into it. And it, like, I think all the newness of everything and the challenges of like learning how to look after this person, I think I was in more of like a focus mode. I think second time round I was a bit more relaxed and I could
enjoy it more.
Yeah, it was so delicious. I was like, I'm good. Like, I just knew, I was like, I'm going to have to do this again. I can't, like, this can't be the last time I have this newborn. So I'm really excited for the newborn phase.
The newborn stage.
But I know it'll be a little different with two other little people needing attention. So I think that, the balance of that will be a challenge. But right now I'm feeling excited to have a newborn. I think after the newborn phase is over, it all gets a bit more challenging.
Okay, so the newborn phase is a particular favorite for you.
Yeah, oh gosh, I love those first few weeks. Just delicious. And obviously there's like the breastfeeding challenges, and it comes with its all of its own stuff. But I don't know,
and every kid is different.
Every kid is different, but just that, when they're tiny, I don't know, there's something delicious about it. And yeah, I mean, I think after that, the next few months are challenging after the first couple of weeks are over. But yeah, I think I feel ready for it and excited to be growing our family in this way. It feels like a privilege. So I feel good about it right now.
Cool. I mean, that's great. Yeah. In the current moment,
it goes excited. Like up and down. Like sometimes I'm like, oh my word, I'm terrified. Like, how am I going to do all of this? But in this moment, I feel positive.
In this moment, you are happy. Well, I mean, as someone who will get to enjoy the newborn, I am also very excited for you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Cuddles.
Yeah, all the cuddles, all the snuggles, and as you said, that newborn smell. There's just something about it. But it's interesting that like women are particularly in tune to that smell where men aren't. Because I remember with my husband, he kind of was like, I can't really smell it. Like, what is this appeal? When we were all like,
what are you talking
sniffing
about?
the baby's head and loving that, and they were kind of like, you guys are weird. But it's interesting that kind of thing, that maternal thing that we just have.
I even like, okay, this is like a controversial opinion, but like there's even something about I'm not saying I love the baby poo smell, but it's like, I don't hate it. Okay. It's like a weird, it's okay,
interesting.
Yeah, it's controversial. You're just finding out things about me. I don't know. It's like, it's almost got like a sweet smell. It's so weird. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm really traumatized by my 2-year-old's poos at the moment, which are like just so
toddler nappies. Wow,
terrifying, because he just loves to eat meat, and I feel like meat is the enemy.
Meat can have a particular smell.
But yeah,
so this will be a big change from the toddler nappies to the newborn nappies.
Like, I don't even feel like it's poo. It's like something else. But my favorite of the newborn is like the little stretch. The little stretches. Like, that's my favorite. like a little newborn stretch.
And
Oh, it's so
yeah.
cute.
And knowing you, it'll be a long stretch because you produce these really long, long little men.
Long children.
Lots of limbs.
Limmy, leggy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very exciting, and we're very excited for you.
Oh,
But
thank
it
you.
does kind of make me think a bit because number 2 is on the cards for us at some point. And now, like, you are on expecting number 3. Can you remember the adjustment from 1 to 2 and what that was like?
A little bit. It was quite a wild
A bit of a blur.
It was like the kind of COVID time, and we were moving house and renovating, and it was all like, when I was pregnant with number 2, it was all really intense. And so, I think the lead up to it is a little hazy now. But from when he was born, like, I think I was just in a different headspace. And in some ways it should have like felt harder because now you're managing 2, but it was actually easier for me.
Interesting.
I think what's so hard about 1, like so far in my journey, I mean, we'll have to have a part 2 after I've had number 3 for a while.
When there's 3 in the mix, what do you have to say?
Yeah, exactly. But, if I look back on the journey now, the adjustment from 0 to 1 was way harder for me than 1 to 2.
And 1 to 2. Interesting.
And I think maybe I'm just slower to kind of get into new phases of life. Like I feel like I have a long adjustment period to kind of get comfortable in a new stage, and it's such a big change. And I think I spent a lot of the first few months of with my oldest feeling like really overwhelmed. I mean, I think also having to with COVID and the lockdowns and stuff also had its own challenges in terms of just the isolating aspects of community. But actually, I think it's hard for all new moms to figure out community and how to kind of make friends in this new season, and how to I think you can kind of manage your life before you have kids in terms of friendships. You can have them at the pace you want, when you want. But something about having a kid, there's like almost like I just can't do this on my own. Like I have to have people, and kind of kicks you into this different gear. Like it throws you into a more interdependent space, which I actually think is really good, but hard if you haven't established that community yet. And for me, I think I was one of the first of my friends to have kids as well. So it was kind of like making new friends, people that I'd never met before, and trying to be like, how do I find people who've got kids the same age to connect with? And so it's like, along with all the other new things, you're also kind of making new friendships and figuring out, how to chat when a baby is pulling on you and suddenly you're in the middle of a conversation and you're like, sorry, I have to change a nappy, or all of these other dynamics, and it's overwhelming. And I think by the time number 2 came along, I'd established quite a lot of that community already. A lot of the people I'd met we'd had a first baby at a similar time. We're now having second, so we were kind of doing that together. The isolation, even in the pregnancy, was much lower. I had people to ask questions and be like, how did you do this? Or like, how do we do this again? Like, and it makes such a difference, not feeling alone. And so I think for number 2, and I think also just I had already established sort of my whole life had already shifted around the small child routine. Exactly. So I wasn't like shifting now my whole routine and my whole life like I was with Johnny. It had already shifted to the most parts, and now it was just slotting in another one. And then of course you're so much more confident in kind of some of your decisions and the things, how you want to do things, and you kind of know the things that are a big deal and the things that you can let go a little bit or be more open-handed with. What's important to you, what's kind of, if we do it differently this time, it's fine. I mean, I hope it continues like that with number 3 and it's just slotting in another. Um, but
Yeah, you
yeah,
also will, you're going to have the different ages because like
yeah,
Johnny's kind of entering into school, and
yeah,
then Rocky's like starting school, preschool,
yes,
and then you're going to have a newborn, and then, the different
yeah,
activities that come with managing 3 kids and all the
totally.
different
Yeah.
things
So I
that
think it'll be like
come with caring
busier in
them.
a physical sense, maybe, but like more peaceful in an internal sense. And I think that counts for a lot. Where I think with number 1, it was like a lot of internal upheaval, which
Yeah.
is yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I can really resonate with what you were saying, and that like the adjustment to 1 is such a big thing. And I think I've always been, I am an introvert. So doing this whole podcast to begin with is a very new thing for me. But I can say with certainty, prior to having Haley, I would not even like consider doing this. So
yeah,
it's crazy the shift just in a year and a half in terms of how I am and engage with people.
yeah,
Because like you said, you're forced to, you're in this whole new era, and like you, also the first of our friends who are married and then
mm,
now into an era of being parents. And yeah, you just like, who do you turn to? It's a
yeah,
very different thing. And yeah, it's like it can really force you to come out of your shell and push you, shove you out of your comfort
yeah,
zone.
exactly. It has a
Um,
way of doing.
it has a way of doing that, yeah, to kind of, you have to put yourself out there. You have to
Yeah,
see, who else is out there, and community is so important.
totally.
Yeah, and I think it's commendable how you got through that season with Johnny, and that I think it's important to acknowledge that, like, the lack of support, because your grandparents or anything couldn't really be involved, and we couldn't even help as a family either because it was the hard lockdowns, and so it was an intense season.
Yeah,
And yeah, but it's just commendable how you're able to get through that. And I'm sure, if you down the line you think about it, there'll be ways that it's like pushed you out of your comfort zone and has
totally,
made you so much stronger in your connection with Johnny,
totally.
because you were
Yeah,
kind of like stuck in that and you couldn't
yeah,
couldn't do anything. We didn't have a choice.
yeah. I think we got close. Him and I, where it would have maybe been easy to palm him off to grandparents more, maybe because I was feeling so overwhelmed, and
Mm,
um, yeah, I do
yeah,
kind of look back fondly on that connection time,
yeah,
um, although it came with its challenges. So
mm,
yeah, I think you're right. It is. There were some positives to it as well.
mm, yeah, and the adjustment from being just you and your husband and living a life to then being a parent. What think of it? Was there anything that like surprised you the most about becoming a parent and a mom and trying to navigate all those things?
I mean, one of the things that surprised me, I think, is I think you hear a lot of how hard it is on a marriage or on a relationship to have a baby, and
Mm,
certainly there are like a lot of real challenges in terms of just like actual time together, and now you're also like not the best version of yourself a lot of the time because you're not sleeping, and um so there are definite challenges, but I think um again, it's like these things that I think, are hard to express. So maybe we don't express them to
mm,
each other or to people who are having kids. And I sometimes feel bad. Like, friends of mine who haven't had kids are like, it just sounds so terrible, and it sounds so hard. Like, why would I do this? And then I'm kind of like, but wait, it's like actually so amazing. And I think the point I was going to make, it's like, it's actually amazing for the relationship. Like, you have this little person you've made together who you both
mm,
equally adore, and like, the connection that it almost built between you as a couple is so amazing to like watch this little person develop. And you like, in some ways it's the only other person who gets it, like gets how
mm,
amazing this is. And obviously because your little person is just the best person in the whole entire world. And so
mm,
and you don't expect other people to feel that way, but you and your partner, you can share that feeling of like, oh my gosh, how amazing is this little person? Like, look at what they've done
Yeah.
today. Look, and it's just the connection and like the closest that can almost bring in the relationship is something that I think I didn't hear that much about before having kids. I was also like, oh no, this is going to be so bad for our relationship. Like,
Yeah.
and that's not to minimize some of the challenges that are there, but to say it's not only challenge, there's also like beautiful points of connection that you have with your partner in doing this amazing journey together.
Yeah, that's so true. I also didn't really hear much of that before. It was just it's so hard, but it's so amazing. Like you're really
like,
gonna struggle,
okay.
but you're gonna love it. And it's like
yeah,
so opposite. But yeah, like you're so right in saying that there is that connection. It is hard and challenging and adjusting to figuring out new routine and how you manage, expectations and stuff.
Yeah.
But sharing in the joy of this little person that you've made. And then as they get older, what I'm loving now is seeing how, how Haley interacts with dad, versus how she interacts with me, and seeing those little relationships develop.
Yeah. Yeah, it's lovely, especially as they get older and into more of that like play zone. And I think that's often, I mean, I'm sure it's different for different kinds of dads, but like I feel like our husbands, the culture of our family in particular is like, I think play is like where the dads come to the fore, and it's really fun watching that.
It is. I do sometimes feel jealous though, because being mom like this and stay-at-home mom, and you're also at home with your boys, but the key responsibility of making sure that like the house is kept in order, but also like they've been fed and they're napping and they've got clean clothes, and like so a lot of the more practical side of parenting falls on us. And I feel like I don't get to share enough in the joy of the fun sometimes, of just like sitting on the floor and playing with the blocks and making a mess and giggling and dancing. And maybe that's just something I need to work on. But I feel like it is a reality of being the mom when a lot more of the practical stuff falls on you. And I guess that's maybe just where we need to appreciate dads, and that's their role to shine in the more fun, playful side. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. I think it's that balance. I mean, I think I'm also not great at the play side of things. I wouldn't say that's like my real strength as a mom. Like snuggles, yes. Like very good with the snuggles all day. But yeah, I think that actually like entering into their world and play is like a bit of a challenge for me. But I know for kids, it's like, it's how they connect, And so it is always like a challenge for me to be like, how do I kind of, are there things that I could put aside to focus on this instead? And it's hard because it's really not my favorite thing to do. And I also agree with you. Like I sometimes feel a little bit like, oh, it seems so easy for Dan, kind of just comes up with the stuff. Like, and I'm like, how do you like, I don't know, how do you come up with it? Like, what? It's like, it doesn't
Dan's really creative and really good at like getting on the bicycle with the boys, and they're out going somewhere, and like you post pictures on the family chat of all their adventures, and it's like I wish I could do those things too.
Well, the kids actually think I don't know how to ride a bike. Johnny laughed at me when I told him that I could ride a bike. He's like, no, Mom, you can't ride a bike. I was like, I can. I just don't, but I can.
See, we're missing out on opportunities to show some of our skills.
Exactly. Like he needs to know I can ride a bike. But then I'm like, it has actually been a while. Like, when was the last time I rode a bike on it? Going into a crisis.
I'm sure if push came to shove, you would be on that bicycle going down the road.
Totally. But I was going to say, like, in that concept of talking to people who don't have kids yet, because I think I was also like really terrified before having kids, because I just had heard the negative, and I was trying to explain to a friend, because it's like you hear this, people are like, you kind of see people do it and it looks really hard, and you're like, ooh, like this looks not great. You're like not sleeping, and the moms always seem a bit like stressed out and grumpy, and like, this doesn't look great. And I think no one's able to sort of really put into words what's great about it. So you're kind of like, what is great about it? They're kind of just like, it's amazing, but it's so hard, but it's amazing, but it's so hard. Which is what like you were saying, and you kind of hear this message and you're like, what does it mean? And was trying to describe it to a friend, and like the best way I've been able to kind of describe it is like, it's just like it's like a deepening experience as a person.
Mm.
In terms of like, yeah, the lows are low, but the highs are like so high. It's like it just it kind of feels like an intenser experience of life in some way, in both aspects, you know. And so I've like never had highs like this in terms of love and purpose and connection. I've also haven't maybe had lows as intense, or
Yes, I was gonna say.
actually, no, I mean, I've had lows that are intense, but I mean, maybe like physical lows as intense, because I think maybe
Right.
I've had like maybe some soul lows, or, you know, gone
Yes.
through mental health things, or, you know, before having kids that were hard. But just in terms of like battling through something, which is like just a real physical challenge, you know, like
Yes.
a challenge to every part of my life. And you know, it is really intense on a physical level, I think,
Yeah.
having a baby, and it drains you, you know, in a different way. And you have to figure out how to renew those, you know, sources of
Have
energy
to
in new
replenish.
ways, you know,
Yeah.
like your kind of coping mechanisms, you know, don't work anymore. So you have to find new ones, you know.
Yeah.
That's all part of like the first time mom thing that I think is a challenge. But also the highs are like unlike anything else, you know, and it's so
Yeah.
hard to describe. And I kind of would want to be like, you know, I'd want to give everyone this experience, you know.
Yeah, it's
And it's a
challenging.
shame that it's hard to explain it, you know. I wish I
Yeah,
could
it
like
really
find the
is.
words to tell people how amazing it can feel, you know.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and it's weird because like it's so hard to verbalize, but I feel like this weird pressure, which is probably just from myself, but because we are the first to have kids in our friendship circle, it's hard, and they're around for a lot of the struggles and see, you know, now we entering into tantrums and all that kind of stuff and how we navigate that. And, you know, we hanging out and she wants the attention, but we're having a conversation and trying to maneuver her feelings around that. And I find I struggle to, I can't, it's hard to verbalize, but I feel like I need to promote being a parent and promote having kids so that they also do that one day, you know,
yeah,
because I think they'll all be wonderful parents. And
yeah,
but it's hard when you in those moments where it's hard to be like, okay, but you still want to do this, right?
yeah, yeah. Like,
It's
don't
so
be put
good.
off.
Yeah, don't be put off. It's great. Like,
Yeah,
don't
it's
mind
really
me right
amazing. They're like,
now.
is
Yeah,
it?
debatable. I'm not so sure about that. Um, yeah, but it's also hard, you know, as this kind of feeds into another question I was interested to ask you about what your advice would be. But yeah, I think like it's like you want to be able to give people a bit of guidance and not warning, but just not not caution even. I don't even know what the right word is, but that like it is challenging, but it's amazing, you know. And you want to kind of give people that preface before they go into this, but it's hard because also like you need to. It's something you actually just need to learn and figure out in doing it with your kid, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so kind of feeding into that, you know, more and more people I know are falling pregnant, which is really exciting. But looking back and kind of thinking about your experience, what would your advice be to new or expecting parents?
Hard, because I think so much of it is just having to jump in
Mm-hmm.
and figure it out and trust your instincts. I mean, maybe that's a big part of it, is I think maybe being able to say, you know, I think someone said this to me and it was actually really helpful, is that you are the only expert on your child. And
Mm-hmm.
there are so many strong opinions and voices out there on how to do things, whether to sleep train or not to sleep train, whether to, you know, use a bottle or not use a bottle, you know, all these sorts of things. And you can feel quite overwhelmed. So I think part of it is like really trusting your instincts. And I think within those instincts, allowing there to be space for a happy mom
Mm.
in in all of that, because I think
Yeah.
we put so much pressure on ourselves as moms to, we will sacrifice everything so that they have the best experience possible, and I think it's possible to lose ourselves in that, and without realizing it almost. And I think this happened a little bit with maybe my first, is that I was so focused on doing everything perfectly for him, that he would have the best experience and have the best start at life, that I think I didn't always think about where I was in that equation and how I was doing. And a really stressed out, anxious, sleep deprived mom can't connect. And I think kids, more than anything, need connection. Like, that's the thing they need,
And they
need
can pick
eye
up on
contact,
that.
and they need you smiling at them, and again, it's like, I'm not even being hard on myself on, that first time round, because it is just really hard. You have to navigate this stuff, and there's kind of no way around it. Like, you have to just go through it. And part of going through it is just, it being hard, and I think it's just part of the gig, but if I could, that would be what I would encourage. Like, as you're going through this hard, try leave space for if there's a decision that will lead to a happier mom, that is probably going to be the best thing for the connection,
For
and
you, for
ultimately
your
for the kid.
family. Yeah.
And then little practical things, like, I think I tried to find one or two sources of information that I trusted, and stuck with those, and try to tune out some of the other noise, or one or two other moms that I trusted, who maybe had gone ahead a little bit, and I thought, okay, I like how they parent, and chatted to them, because otherwise, you can hear a lot, and it can feel overwhelming. So also, like, limiting your information sources, or limiting which websites you can go with. Otherwise, it can be like really overwhelming in terms of the amount of information and differing opinions, like really strong opinions on different things. So
there is so much out there, and I feel like, because everything's about the algorithm now and all the different platforms, the moment they know that you're a mom, the stuff that just you get bombarded with, and
totally,
you kind of need to force yourself to just switch off and not tap into a lot of that, because you can get sucked in so easily. And
especially social media, because it kind of can add this pressure, like everyone's doing things this way or everyone's doing things that way, and it's not
this
really,
is the latest trend.
It's not always the case, and I think nothing is a substitute for that real community. So I think, again, like, trying to find the other moms who have kids similar ages, and it just makes the world of difference in not feeling alone.
Just being able to relate to the similar kind of stage and what's happening at the time, So you say that it's important for, I get, moms to have moments and just make sure that they're looking after themselves. What do you do for yourself? Something that's just for you?
Well, my kids go to school now, so I get quite a lot of time to do things just for me. So that's been a really nice new season, with both of them being at school. But yeah, I think for me, it's a mix of, if I want to have a morning in bed watching series, I do that. Like, allowing there to be space. Before kids were at school, obviously, sometimes that was, saying to my husband, like, I just need a break, and kind of working that into the schedule. But yeah, I think things like gym, I've got this dance class that, like, brings me so much joy, and kind of really making sure that I commit to the things that are, like, life-giving. But again, it took me, like, quite a long time to figure out what those things were. Like I was saying, I think the things that filled my cup before having a kid, or the things that I needed to regain my equilibrium, were different, or maybe more easily accessible. And it's taken a long time to figure out how to, like, fill my cup again in this season, and it's been a lot easier. But I'm kind of now almost 5 years into this journey, and kind of really only in the last maybe year and a half have I felt like, okay, getting a handle on like how to kind of find myself in some of this. So it can take a while, and I think being patient with, with yourself is important. And
need a lot of grace.
Oh, the other thing I was going to say that I think has been so helpful second time round versus first time round is like realizing how quickly seasons pass. I think with my first, I was like, oh my word, we're stuck in this season, and now this is going to be my life. Like I'm never going to see it again.
Interesting. Yeah.
And you kind of don't have a reference point for like how quickly they evolve and change and how quickly they learn stuff. And,
completely.
So you can like, you end up not doing anything about the sleep for so long because you think it's going to, you don't know how to solve the problem, and it just and then you actually maybe take a few steps and you're like, oh, actually it wasn't that hard. Like they learn so quickly, or they change so quickly, and suddenly, nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
The hard things don't last forever. And that perspective has been so helpful second time round. But again, it's not something you can know until you know it, But so I feel like it probably doesn't help a first time mom saying, nothing lasts forever, because you just have to, like, your body has to learn that, but
it's true though. I think it's helpful to have that perspective, I guess, but I do know that it's really hard when you're in the thick of it, that you
it feels like this is your life now, like I'm never going to have friends again, or I'm never going to sleep again, or I'm never going to and things things change quickly, and little shifts can sometimes make a huge impact on your life. Trying something that you feel intimidated to try, like, oh, it won't work for us, or I don't think it'll help, like my kid would never respond to that, or whatever, and you actually try, and then they totally do, and it was like not an issue at all. I've heard people say that about like, oh, like, my kid would never cope without their dummy, and then they try one small thing and the kid is like so chill, and suddenly it's like, oh, why didn't I do this earlier? Like it was actually not that hard or traumatic, or but again, it's like you have to be ready for those things, and you have to kind of again, it's just part of the learning process that you have to go through.
Learn as you go, that's for sure.
But to say like, it's been quite like long, like I said, almost 5 years into my parenting journey, or actually maybe more if you count the pregnancy. And
it still feels like Johnny was born the other day.
I know.
Time just goes by so quickly.
It goes fast, and it does take a long time. It's like, it is quite a steep learning curve. And obviously I'm still learning, and I'm sure by the time I have number 3 and you talk to me maybe a few months after that, I'm going to be like, Britt, I'm at square one again. Like, this is hell. I don't know what I'm doing. So.
Yeah. Then you can listen to this recording again and just remember what you said.
Yeah, I'll need to listen to it and be like, okay, past Justine felt like things were sort of like semi-manageable. Like,
I can do this.
I think this is why, like,
things.
Someone's kid gets to about 2 and they're like, oh, I think I'll have another one, because obviously like Rocco's 2 now, and it's like really divine. And I'm like, oh, it's like cool. Like, we got this, And I think I've kind of forgotten like how hectic it can be, because everything feels quite like, manageable at the moment.
Yeah. But I think that's just part of how it's designed, that there's just things you block out and don't remember, and
totally,
it's probably a good reason for it, just to help you survive that season.
Evolutionary, like, so people keep having children.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Well, I'm aware of the time. You need to go, but yeah, I really love chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time, and I think we need to do this more often.
Certainly we'll need a follow-up after baby number 3 comes.
Seeing another interview of Life with 3 and what that's
It'll just be like me crying. No, I must be negative because I've just said that it's not.
But thank you so much. So that's that for my conversation with my sister-in-law Justine. I really hope that something was able to resonate with you in the words that were shared today. I think for me, it just reminded me of how important it is to focus on what's beautiful and sacred and precious about having children, because we're surrounded with just information in insight into how challenging it can be. And I think there's an important perspective shift that's needed there. So yeah, I really look forward to sharing more conversations to come. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll chat soon. Bye!